Angie Schaefer. Welcome to this Westcast podcast, A Day in the Life of a Case at West. On June 26, 2008, the last scheduled day for opinions to be handed down for the United States Supreme Court's 2007-2008 term, the court issued its decision in the District of Columbia v. Heller, striking down a ban on handgun possession in Washington, D.C. Shortly after the decision was handed down, its full text was loaded to Westlaw. At the same time, it started a fast-moving process at West to create and insert the editorial enhancements that legal researchers depend on West to deliver. In this podcast, you'll learn more about that process, see it in real time the day the Heller decision came in, and meet some of the people who truly make cases come to life at West every day. The Heller headlines hit the web shortly after the ruling was revealed. While analysis and questions popped up in public, a team within West's Eagan, Minnesota headquarters went to work, just as they do hundreds of times a day, thousands of times a year, for cases from 600 courts, from the highest to the lowest. We watched the Heller case go through 4 steps at West: the receipt and initial posting on Westlaw and creation of its key site history, the creation of headnotes, the classification of those headnotes, and preparing the case to be printed. The Heller case arrived on a server within one of West's massive data centers. It's an automatic load to Westlaw from here, but the work to make it easier to use for researchers was just beginning. We watched publishing specialist Sandra Atkins enter the case into a tracking system, double-checking the case title, date, and judge information. From here, the case went to principal publishing specialist Sherry Schmidt to make connections between Heller and other cases.
We're going to construct the whole history chain. And the cool thing about this to me is that this all happens in about 1 to 4 hours, because we want to get this information out to researchers as quickly as we possibly can.
With the additions to its history, the Heller case was then reposted to Westlaw and to West's internal editing system. Next stop, headnotes. A headnote is an enhancement by West that highlights a legal point made by the court. Some cases have only a few, some a few dozen or more. As he started looking at the Heller case, Principal Attorney Editor Ted Toole told us how he approaches his headnotes.
Usually I need to make some small changes, hopefully to make the court's language a little more concise. Sometimes I need to add context because each headnote needs to stand on its own so that when the researcher is looking at the headnote, they won't have to go to the case just to figure out what's going on.
We were with Ted for his first headnote added to Heller.
So I start here with the Constitution was written to be understood by the voters and its words and phrases were used in their normal and ordinary as distinguished from technical meaning.
Ted made 21 headnotes to the case in 2.5 hours. Then the case was reloaded to Westlaw and he passed it on to a colleague for the third step, the classification of the headnotes. That involves assigning a West key number to the headnotes, which are organized into about 400 major topics of law with more than 90,000 key numbers in all to allow researchers to zero in quickly on the most relevant cases.
Lawyers depend on the key number system because it accumulates all related points of law in one spot. This headnote discusses whether there is an individual right to bear arms under the Second Amendment. We would look at the headnote that classifies to key number 1 in the topic weapons. So we would put in key number 1.
Once Robin's work was done, the Heller case was again reloaded to Westlaw, but this time with all the expert editorial enhancements legal researchers will use to dig deeper into the case. The fourth and final step sent it on its way to be printed in what's called an advance sheet. That's the first of 3 print volumes it will appear in.
Once the case has been released to Westlaw and been fully enhanced, the next step is that it's released for publication. That generally happens within a couple of weeks of being released.
The Heller case also will be printed in an interim bound volume and then in a final bound volume with all of the decisions of the Supreme Court term. The significance of the Heller case is certainly not lost on the people at West who touched it.
And you think, wow, we handle hundreds of thousands of opinions every year. Our collection just explodes.
I find that the people in this department really care about their work, really care about getting things right, about being fast and accurate, and writing well.
I think for me the incredible thing is it's people that do every bit of this process and it all works. It works every day.
It is exciting to do this work at times, especially when high-profile cases come through. You feel like you really are a part of history.
We see what a difference what we do makes to customers. We know that. And people in this department are really committed to court opinions and to putting them out on Westlaw effectively, fast, accurately, comprehensively.
Every case is loaded onto Westlaw as quickly as we can possibly load it. Every case receives the same level of attention to accuracy as the Heller case did, and every case is enhanced with the same enhancements as the Heller case was. It was just what we do every day of the year.